Hey guys, we'll just give it a minute or two and we'll go ahead and get started. Thanks for jumping on. Just hang tight real quick and we'll get started.
Hey, good morning, Brett.
Hey Jeff, how are you?
Wonderful. Do you offer CE classes like how would you say it? Complimentary CE classes or free CE classes for update two?
Not for legal one and two, but I
Okay,
do offer an hour of free CE once a month.
awesome.
Yep. And that's usually the last Thursday meeting of the month.
Okay,
Uh,
and we all get emails.
yes, yeah, it'll be the same meeting as you're on, except you'll get credit for it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Appreciate you guys hopping on today. I don't know about where y'all are, but we've gotten a lot of rain here in the DFW area, so that's a good thing, I guess. Got a new agent today, Jeff Trin from Houston. So everybody say hi to Jeff.
Thanks for having me, everybody.
You bet, you
And I
bet.
love to learn from everybody, all your seniors out there.
Absolutely. Well, we're not shy about that, so that's good. Well, so listen, today's topic is really how to get engaged and stay engaged. And I don't mean from a romantic perspective. I mean from a client perspective. And the reason I'm doing this one today is that, we're halfway through June and start of the summer real estate season. And, a lot of this is really being in the right place at the right time. And my point is that out of all the times of the year, this is when you're going to have the biggest chance, the greatest chance of closing something, just because the demand is higher between, May and October. And so I thought it would be appropriate to go through various ways to connect with people, and to increase your chances of getting to closing. So, this is a quote from Usain Bolt, just, runs like the wind. And he says, I trained for 4 years to only run 9 seconds. And there are people out there that don't see results in 2 months and give up too soon, right? And so sometimes failure is sought by oneself. And so any sales aspect of the real estate industry is really the long game. It's a very, very small percentage of clients that will pull the trigger on something on the first contact, right? And so we know that it takes between 10 and 12 contacts before a client decides to work with us. And so today I'm going to run through some things on how to get connected. So I want you to remember that statistics show in the state of Texas year over year that a large percentage of clients hire us because we were referred to them by someone that they trust, or they were a past client. So it would stand to reason that it would probably be a better use of our time to focus on getting referral business versus buying leads or Facebook ads and those types of things. So, the very clients that you want to get are literally right under your nose. And so almost 70% of the clientele are hiring us because we were referred to them. Um, People are only moving about 10 every 10 to 12 years. All right. So the name of the game in reaching out to people is right place, right time. And you just got to talk to a lot of people. Right. And so for that reason, real estate is a contact sport. Got to get out there. All right. And so why don't we just jump in? So if that's all it took, why don't we just jump in and do this? Well, realtors want business, they want closings, they want to get paid, clearly, right? But something sometimes prevents us from uh, engaging in people, right? And so to find out exactly what they need. And so sometimes we're just afraid to make that initial connection. Um, and for whatever reason, we tend to be resistant to relationships, which are the very thing that is going to get us business, closings, and a paycheck. And so, why is this? What do we typically fear? Well, I think that it goes without saying that we fear rejection. We fear they're going to say, no, I don't need your services right now. And that's fine. You're going to get that a lot because if people are only moving every 10 to 12 years, well, there's going to be a lot of no's out there. But believe me, there is money on the other side of that yes that you need to get to. Um, we typically fear bothering them. We feel just in general overwhelmed by this process. We fear just how much work it actually is. We might feel uncomfortable with how we're approaching clients. And I think that at the end of the day, we'd much rather have them approach us than the other way around, right? Who wouldn't? And so I think that what we think there is out there is this, endless drive-through line like you see here at McDonald's that people are just going to line up in droves and want to use us as their realtor. And so that's just not the way it works. And so this is kind of the shotgun approach. And I think that the better alternative is this, right? So a more surgical approach, wait for the fish to come to you. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first suggestion, it should come as no surprise to those of you that have been here a while, are note cards. They're simple. I've gotten, 3 or 4 calls already this week from agents that want to know that if they're are they the only ones that are experiencing a little bit of a lull in business? And so what that tells me is that if that's the case, then you've got time to write note cards. And so I always say just start with one. And the 4, 5, 10 that you need to send will follow once you get into that routine. Um, be purposeful versus just randomly sending note cards for, just the sake of sending them out there. And so when you're sending these, seek to identify why you might thank someone, compliment someone, or just be there for someone. And so where you get these is that I mean, you can go to Walmart, you can go to Half Price Books, you can go to um, Vistaprint if you want to get, logoed ones, things like that. But they're easy to get. I mean, you can get a box of 30 of them for 8, $9. So getting them is not the problem. It's disciplining yourself to send them out and to send them out with purpose. And so, you might start one by saying, I was just thinking about you today and whatever, whatever made you think of that person that day. And I would focus on their character qualities. Things like, are they a loving person, caring person, generous, patient, giving, whatever, and really call that out. I always say that as adults, uh, it's pretty rare that adults compliment other adults. I mean, we're good about that with our children, but it's rare to get a random note card of encouragement from somebody without it being attached to an agenda, right? And that's not kind of what I'm talking about here. I mean, yes, we want to get business, but I think that if you lead first with, I want to make a connection with you first, because I don't even know if we can work together, the closings will come, right? So that's why I suggest focus on who they are as a person. You might focus on something that they've done for you, right? And just mention how that helped you. And then what I would do is in the spirit of just getting and staying organized, it would be helpful just to start your day with a pad and pen and write down everyone you met or spoke with. And at the end of the day, you're going to have your list. And whether that's a neighbor, someone that you filled your prescription at the grocery store, your doctor, your dentist, whoever. And so if you don't have at least one person to send out these note cards to, you need to get out more and end of story. I mean, they're not going to come to your living room. And so I actually have thank you note card ideas um, on our website, and that is under on-demand training. And here are some thank you note templates. And this will kind of be good for thought starters. It even gives you the scripts. So, and you don't have to use this verbatim, but it hopefully will get you thinking about what you can say to the person that you're writing that note card to. Okay. Um, so after having said all that, surely what I went through made you think of somebody, right, to write that note card to. And so whoever that is, write that name down right now. And then at the end of this call, write a thank you note to them. If you don't have thank you note cards yet, you don't have to wait to go buy them. Write them a text, write them an email, call them, whatever that is. It will go a long way. But usually, when you're going through an exercise like this, it makes you think of that one person that you want to send a note card to. And so, whoever that is for you, um, stay disciplined and write that note card at the end of the call. All right, next is wear your name badge. Right, so on your onboarding checklist when you joined, there was a call out to go get a name badge, and there was a reason for that. And it wasn't just to wear it at open houses so that people know that you're the realtor. There are marketing uh, benefits to wearing a name badge. This will absolutely get people to approach you. This happened to me more than one time. I was running an errand in a neighborhood, one of those neighborhood Walmarts that's right near my house, and I had my name tag on, and someone did approach me about listing their home. I got a listing appointment. Didn't get to list the home, but I was really new at the time as well, and my presentation could have been better. So, but regardless, it got me a lead, and so that is a great way to have people come to you versus you chasing down leads. Purposely smile, meet their eye contact, say hello to people slowly so that they can read your name tag, and then put your name tag on your right hand side because when someone is standing in front of you, they are the mirror image of you. And when you go to shake their hand, they're not going to look to, if you're right-handed, you're going to naturally want to put it on your left-hand side, right? But if you put it on your right-hand side, when you go to speak to that person, their eyesight is going to go to their right hand, your right hand side, and that's where your name tag is going to be. So it's going to be a little bit um, less cumbersome for them to, figure out who you are. Uh, and regardless of whether or not this is the case, people will think that you were just out doing real estate activities. Doesn't matter if you were or you were not. It gives the impression that you're a busy realtor. And so put yourself in the right place, the right time with your name badge. Maybe it's your kids' sporting practices while you're running errands, a hair appointment, or a dentist. I mean, talk about a captive audience. The hygienist or dentist has to look down at you, for 30 minutes straight. And it'd be really cool if you were wearing your name badge and struck up a conversation, right? So there are very subtle and free ways to do this. And then have business cards ready. And then once establish their contact information, what you're going to do is add that to your database and follow up with them on a regular basis. All right, the next is preemptive connecting. This could be something as simple as making recommendations as a local expert, whether it be on social media or the Nextdoor app or wherever. I mean, this is one of the reasons why the public uses us. It's because we are supposed to be well connected to plumbers, electricians, and so on. Um, Things like businesses, restaurants, retail experiences. Um, Anyone on social media that wants the name of a fence repair person, as one example, you should be the person that provides that. And if you look on Facebook, especially, you won't have to go through the entire day without at least someone reaching out and wanting a recommendation of somebody like this. And so you should be the first person to chime in. Now, mind you, if they're friends with you on Facebook, um, you can always instant message them and say something like, well, I noticed you were looking for a plumber. Here is a pretty good recommendation. I'm a realtor in the area, in case you didn't know. And if you need any other recommendations, you know, reach out. I'm the local expert. That's what I'm here for. All right. So builders, reach out to builders. They all want extra marketing. You might be able to get them to let you hold one of their spec homes open. So builders are a good resource for this as well. All right. And then basically, um, when you're getting in front of anybody, the reality is that you really don't know how you can help them, right? But this might be um, something you could say to a builder. I'm here because I have no idea how I can help you, but I'm a local realtor and very well connected. So tell me a little bit about your business, your spec homes, etc. So this could be for a builder, it could be for a local business. It's just another way to start a conversation. All right. And then, as always, whenever you meet someone new, put it into your database. So your database doesn't have to be something that you pay for. It could be an Excel spreadsheet, but just capture their contact information somewhere so that you can market to them later. All right, so speaking of your database, so over time, this will absolutely increase in value, right? So um, today you might have one name, but a year from now, you'll probably have 101 names, right? So if you have nothing right now, just know that this is one of those things where if you water it, it's going to grow, right? So everybody that you come in contact with, doesn't matter how strong of a lead they are, needs to be captured in a database so that you can determine who they are to you and how you're going to continue to reach out to them. All right. So um, from this, you could do email marketing. I would look at our follow-up plan as well. So when you have people in your database, this is kind of your command central. So our follow-up plan is also on our uh, on-demand training tab, and it's about halfway down the page, and it says Blueprint for Following Up. And when you download this, it will give you a very detailed blueprint of how to follow up with people. And so remember what I started to say um, at the outset of the call. If a client is gonna, we need 10 to 12 touches before they hire us, then logically speaking, we're going to need to follow up with them, right? And so how do you do that? Well, across the top of this thing, I have the normal sources of business, right? That you're going to, naturally get business from. On the left-hand side are different things that you can follow up with them with, right? Like a buyer handbook, a seller handbook, maybe it's a vendor booklet, um, you know, winterizing your home, things like that. And the X is matched up with who it's best for. So, you wouldn't necessarily send a coming soon uh, to, somebody in your sphere of influence. But you would send a summer checklist to that person or an expired listing. So you kind of get the point, right? So not everything is for everybody. And then further down, I kind of outline, well, what is the best method for communication? And the ones in bold are the most effective. Right. So video, email, in person, text, video, text, instant messenger, right? Mail, email, phone, there's too much that can slip through the cracks. It's not as effective. I'm not saying don't do it, but we all want our content to be consumed. So we want to communicate in a way that is going to be consumed. So, and then people always get tripped up with, well, how often should I reach out to people? I don't want to bug them. How frequently is too much? And so, again, broken down by the different sources of business is how frequently you should follow up. So, for your sphere of influence, and these are, purely people in your database, it's you're going to hit them up on day one, day seven, and then every 30 days after that. All right, expired listings going to be a little bit more frequent because they're more motivated. So it's day one, day three, day seven, 14, 21, and then every 2 weeks after that, and then so on. Right. So this is literally the blueprint for how you do this. So that is right there on our business building tab. All right. Um, so in my mind, a really quick way to kind of level up your relationship with anybody is to parse out something unique about that person and search for articles or things that would match that personality. So, in other words, and these should be coming out in your conversations, right? And in your first conversation, what do you like to do as a hobby type of deal? And let's say that someone likes to fish. Well, I would be looking for articles on fishing or how the fish are biting in a local lake, or hey, I noticed that this lake was right near where you live. Have you ever fished there? That type of thing. And so it really just fast tracks your connection to that person because in your database, you're going to have hopefully hundreds of people, and you're going to have to figure out some way to um, level up that relationship as fast as you possibly can, right? So that I think that's a good way to do it. And then if you already have, a handful of people in your database, it might be time to weed out the ones that don't really, give you any business or really don't mean a whole lot to you. But you do need to know ideally a handful of things about everybody. You want to know their birthday. You want to know their familial status, if they're married, single, kids, whatever. Their complete contact information. So first name, last name, email address, phone number, right? One interest that they have and what's important in their lives, right? And then the names of a spouse, kids, do they have any pets? And if you don't know these things, this is a great excuse to reach out and ask and just have a conversation, right? So believe it or not, this is the time of year where people are very curious about real estate because they see a lot of for sale signs in their neighborhood because that's just the time of year. So um, it's not going to be like you're coming out of left field with this stuff. All right. And then next is just be observant. Like when you become a realtor, and especially if you're hanging on to another job, which most of us are, um, it's hard to switch gears. And the challenge with our job is as a realtor is that we need to be able to pick up on both verbal and nonverbal cues or something, seemingly small that someone says as an indication that they might be in the market for representation, right? So many ways to go about doing this, but I'll just say that you gotta have your antenna up, right? To make sure that you're listening for these particular cues. Put your phone down, listen and observe. I can't tell you how many times I'll go into an open house and the agent hosting is on their phone, not really greeting people, not engaged. You can't do that. You can't do that, right? And so you might ask things like, are you happy with where you live? I'm a realtor, so I have to ask. It's getting to be about that time of the year, so a lot of people are thinking of moving. And so this could be inserted into really any conversation out there. Um, and your chances increase if you're physically in a place that promotes this kind of discussion. So think about your niche, right? So if your niche is senior citizens, are you going to a local senior center and participating in those kind of events? So you got to be in the right place, the right time, and in a place where this kind of conversation just comes natural. Leverage who you know and really just grow where you're planted. I mean, you could be out in the middle of nowhere, but you got to increase the chances of um, interaction with people. So a lot of restaurants have these bulletin boards, like maybe during the or in the takeout area. You see a lot of business cards posted up there. I would post mine up there. You never know. You never know. So if a restaurant or some other place like that, coffee shop, has a community space for, promotion of your business, by all means do it. I mean, and it doesn't have to be a restaurant or coffee shop. I've seen other like dry cleaners, things like that. People are allowed to put business cards on the counter. I would do it. Local vendors, so inspectors, HVAC, plumbers, electricians, partner with those people so that you can cross refer. Local businesses as well, and I'll go into that in a second. Um, Offer your lead magnets to get them to send people to you. So what is a lead magnet? Well, I have an entire section on our website for this. So if you go to more and go to lead magnets, these are things like buyers and sellers guide and lending material that are a hook, something that a buyer or seller is going to want from you. And in exchange for that, you would get their contact information in order to send that because they're all in PDF format. I would download all of these and save them and say, yeah, you know what, I have something that might be of interest to you. What's a good email for you? And send them something like this, right? Home buying in 6 steps, comprehensive guide to filing your taxes with a mortgage, all these types of things. And I mean, this is not an exhaustive list by any means. If you can find a better source to get this, go for it. But this is just what I have to offer you. All right. Okay, and you can either drop these off or better yet, get their contact information to send electronically. And as always, if they weren't already in your database, that's where they need to go. All right. This is a good one. I think that um, with as many restaurants are in a certain town, people like to hear people's experience. And so, every new business is going to be struggling at first to gain momentum and followers. The best thing, the best favor you could do for a local restaurant is to go there and interview the owner or interview a server, do a Facebook Live video or an Instagram reel or something like that that promotes their business. Like their social media pages, post it to that. I mean, you will have a lifelong fan, right? Yeah, so offer to do a review and post on social media, take pictures of you and the owner, and you might consider partnering with them to do a coupon. So maybe, um, either you promote this through social media or set up a table in front of the restaurant and say, hey, if you're willing to do, 10% off just to get customers in here, I'll do the marketing piece for you. I'll create the coupon and I'll just stand out here and hand out coupons. Well, what you get there are potential contact information and you get a chance to market your business as well. Okay. And you might approach them by saying, again, something like, look, I'm not sure how I can help you, but I'm a local realtor and I talk to a lot of people. So tell me about your business. Are you from here? How can we partner and how can I help you? Everybody that opens up a new business has a story. Whether it's a restaurant or a clothing boutique or a daycare center, doesn't matter. That is someone's dream, and there's a story behind that dream. And every single one of them is interesting. And so, those kinds of things get foot traffic. And so they are going to be dying for you to partner with them, to tell their story, and to drive traffic to their business. And again, they're going to reciprocate. There's a chance that you're going to get some business from it. So, and it's all in the spirit of, helping a local business. I mean, who doesn't want to do that, right? Um, another way to connect is through hosting open houses. So, the ideal situation is to get people to come to you. The ideal situation is to get motivated people to come to you. Well, that is hosting an open house. Now, look, I've sent out, especially in the DFW area, a lot of open house opportunities. So I hope you're taking advantage of those. There is no better way to get in front of motivated buyers on some level than to host an open house. All right, so they are going to come to you. You could choose one or more of our lead magnets that I just showed you, and ask everybody that comes in if they want one. And here's what you do. You print off one really nice color version of it, and maybe you even put a note across it that says sample only. And you say, hey, I actually have a 6-step buyer guide, and it really simplifies what most people think is a very complex process. Would you be interested in getting that? Yes, I would. Awesome. What's your first name, last name, and email address? This is my only copy. That's why I'm asking. I'll send this to you once the open house closes down, and now you have a potential client. Okay. Um, so set yourself up and do this correctly. So if you're not familiar with my training on how to do an effective open house, that's also on that on-demand training tab. But, now mind you, if you've never done an open house, like anything, you're going to stumble the first one or two, but stick with it. They are well worth it. It's free leads, they're free leads from people that are on some level motivated between now and the next 12 months. All right, so what are some reasons to reach out? So think of building your database. Um, you come down in the morning, you get your cup of coffee, you know you should be doing something in real estate. You have a handful of people in your database, and you're still stuck on reasons to reach out to people and connect? Well, you could always wish them a happy birthday, right? And if you don't have their birthday, but you're a friend of theirs on Facebook, well, the technology is going to remind you on the day of their birthday. All right, so it's easy. Um, Send them an article they might be interested in, and call to check in and discuss. So this would be after you've sent them something. Hey, did you get that article I sent you about that nearby lake for fishing? I was wondering if you had a chance to take advantage of that. Recognize a post of theirs on social media. So whether it's a like, a share, a comment, that's another great way to reach out. Um, You might send them a piece of local news, a new restaurant that you tried. If there is an election coming up within your local town about something, you might send that out, uh, whatever. And every town has a local newspaper where you can get that information. You might ask them for advice on something. This is probably the highest compliment you can pay anybody. Hey, what do you think about dot, dot, dot? All right. And so it's a real good way to kind of level up that connection. You could pay them a compliment. Hey, just calling or texting to tell you how much I appreciate you and what I like best about you. All right, so here are some interesting sales statistics. So I just went through a handful of ways to reach out and connect with people. And so this will probably be interesting to you. So 48% of realtors never follow up with a request. All right, so think about open house attendees. So let's say that you've gotten their contact information. Statistically speaking, almost half of realtors don't even bother. They have a lead, they never bother following up. Okay, what I don't have is the why, but I do have the what. All right, so 48%. 25% of realtors make a second contact and stop after that. All right, so they give up after a second attempt. 12% of realtors make more than three contacts and just stop after that. Only 10% of all realtors make more than three contacts. So think about attendees to an open house. You've gotten their name and contact information. How often are you following up? Expired listings, because those guys ain't listing right away, typically. How many times are you following up? Well, statistically, half of us aren't doing it at all. And then it just gets worse the further out that you go. All right. Now, if you marry that up with um, closing statistics, like how many people actually, hire you, 2% of sales, and by sales, I mean them hiring us for representation. So 2% of that happened on the first contact, right? So you could argue that either they already knew you or they were desperate and you had a pulse and you're as good as the next realtor. I need to buy this home tomorrow. Let's go. Right. So, not very flattering. Right. So that's only 2%. 3% are made on the second contact. So still really low. 5% are made on the third contact. 10% fourth contact. 80% of all hirings were made between the fifth and 12th contact, right? So if I were hearing this for the first time, I would think, well, I need to get at least 12 reasons to reach out to one person. And I've given you probably four times that in that follow-up plan because they're all there, right? And I'm sure that I've missed a bunch of stuff too. So whatever works for you, you use that. My version was nothing more than thought starters, but this is probably a surprise to some of you. And so, is real estate the long game? 100%. Is real estate a get rich business? 100%. Is it a get rich quick business? 100% not the case, right? Because you have two things working not in your favor. People are only moving every 10 to 12 years. Secondarily, we have to make what, 5 to 12 sales calls before someone hires us? That seems like a lot of work. Well, spoiler alert, it is, right? So, but I just gave you the secret sauce. If you just hang around and do these things on a consistent basis, you're going to get business, right? I've in my open house trainings, I've said this before. If you just do two of those a month and get an average of 5 people coming in, that's 120 people a year. About 10% of that will turn into sales, right? By the time you weed out, I'm already working with somebody, or yeah, I want to buy a home, but I'm not qualified, or I'm the neighbor. And before, after you sift out all that garbage, about 10% or 12 people um, are going to be your client. And if it is a $400,000 home and you're going to make 3% on 12 transactions, that's $144,000 a year, right? So I mean, if someone told me all I needed to do was get really, really good at hosting open houses and I'd get 12 transactions a year, I would say yes is the answer. What's the question? Sign me up, right? So it is the long game. Not everyone's willing to buy or sell right now. So I found this interesting. The other thing that I have for you is about this time of year, um, I get, or you get as well, the Texas Realtor magazine. You should get that every month. And about this time of year, they do a survey about from I think 100,000 buyers and 100,000 sellers from the prior year, and they ask them certain questions. And and they only do one a month. So this month was the buyers. Next month will be the sellers. So I highlighted some things that I thought would be interesting to review. These are only home buyers, all right? Um, Amount of time before locating the home that they actually purchased. 66% uh, was between 2 to 12 weeks, all right? So a pretty fair amount of time. So the most common compromises were price, condition, distance from job, home size, and the style of the home. The least common, so these were deal breakers. If this wasn't met, I'm not buying the home. Distance from school, school quality, and quality of neighborhood, right? So things that you have little control over, except to make sure you're showing them houses that, you know, don't rule these things out to begin with. Um, 94% of buyers were satisfied with the buying process. 43% found their home on the internet first. 29% was a real estate agent. That's not surprising. Uh, okay. Most difficult steps in the home buying process. 21% said the paperwork. Well, easy solve, right? 51%, and this was the largest, said the most difficult step in the process was, quote, finding the right property. And I hate to tell you, but the criteria for what they call finding the right property changes from home to home to home. And whenever you ask them, how do you know this was the right property for you? They never say, well, I asked for a 3 bedroom, 2 bath home, 2,200 square feet, pool. They always say, it just kind of felt right. That's what they always say. So it's a bit of a moving target, but they want an ally. They want someone to tell them it's going to be okay. I'm here to help you. Um, it's not my money, it's your money. So you're not going to hurt my feelings if you drive up and you just want to go because you want to go in because the outside looks horrible. It's your money, and so that's where you can kind of, psychologically help them. Now, let's get down to uh, how, when, why, where they hire us. How did the buyer find their agent? So on the buyer side, it's about 60%. was either a referral from a friend or a really trusted resource is what you should put in there. Or 15% out of that, they worked with you previously. So they weren't first-time home buyers. They had used it before. But about 45% was you were a trusted ally. I mean, you came to them through a trusted resource. Now, listen, a lot of agents will say, I don't stand a chance out there. Everybody knows a realtor. Everybody probably knows three realtors, and that is a true statement. But, I know three coffee shops, and if anyone ever wanted a recommendation, I'd be recommending one because it's my reputation out there. And so just because your next door neighbor has a real estate license doesn't mean that people are out there referring that person. Okay? So referrals, referrals, referrals. What buyers want most from us? What a shocker. 50% said find the right home. So you got to be talking to these folks constantly about what that actually means. And then 25% said help with negotiations on the price and navigating through the contracts. Everything else was single digits. What is also shocking is that the amount of buyers that only interviewed one agent before they hired them, 75%. 75%. Now, you could argue that, well, if the agent was being referred to them already from a trusted resource, you would expect that number to be high, and that would be a fair statement. But I'll be honest with you. I was referred to somebody that I knew, but it was more of a friend of my wife's, and to list their home. And they had been through a lot together, and I thought it was a done deal. I interviewed with her, and it was a very difficult interview, and I did not get the listing. And so that was a shocker to me. So don't assume that just because you're being referred, it's a guaranteed slam dunk. All right. Top method for the first contact of the agent, 31% phone call. All right. So if that was the top reason, then email, text, some kind of campaign, that was probably single digits. So phone call is still most. Most important factors when choosing an agent: experience, honesty, agent is a friend or family member. Can you believe they even mentioned that? That was the most important to them. That's because they don't want to go through the interview process. They want to already know that, hey, someone I like already trust this person. I don't need one more thing on my plate. I'm good to go. Right. So that's interesting. And then reputation. So listen, new agents do not be put off by experience being their number one reason for choosing you. If you approach the equation with a high sense of urgency and just a little bit of confidence and a little bit of luck thrown in there, you're gonna get business. You're gonna get business. Um, Top benefits provided by an agent. 52% said helped buyer understand the overall process. Now, remember, on our on-demand, no, sorry, on our, hang on, I want to show you this. On our website, we have a tab for buy, sell, lease. And for that exact statistic reason, I have a video series on what the seller process should look like. That's a listing, and the buyer process, because they're hiring you to tell them what it is, what comes first, second, third, and so on. And so I have that for you. I just thought that was interesting that that was one of the main things that they said was important to them. The other benefit pointed out unnoticed faults and features of the home. And then lastly, negotiated better contract terms. Um, Lastly, and these are all just Texas home buyers, by the way. This is not national statistics. Average age of a buyer last year was 58. we'll just say currently it's 58, which is astonishing to me. Not first time home buyer, but buyer. Um, in 2023, it was 49. So that should tell you that there are less first time home buyers entering the market. Household income. Right now, it's 112, 500,000. A year ago, it was higher, 121.4. Unfortunately, the purchase price this year is an average of 353, and the year prior was 350. So not only are we making less, the prices are going up. And then the average square footage of a home is about the same. Let's just call it 2,100 square feet. So I was on a call yesterday from our lender with Guild Mortgage, and their company had kind of a State of the Union and predicted kind of what the housing market was looking like in the next year. And one of the things kind of struck me is that, whenever someone asks when is a good time to buy, um, you know, logically speaking, it's always a good time to buy a piece of real estate because prices always increase. However, what struck me was a comment yesterday that went like this. If you were around to experience, well, we all were. Let's go back 2 years when home prices in Texas were appreciating by double digits, 10, 15, 25%. We just couldn't keep up, right? And so prices were clearly outpacing income. And you could argue that that wasn't a good time to buy because people bought at the peak of the market. So fast forward to today. Um, Prices have increased about 3% to 4% in the past, let's just call it a year. Now is the best time to buy because stability wins. So it's not going to go down, right? So now is the time to buy because there aren't these huge, large, illogical swings in pricing of real estate, right? So if someone buys today at a steady 3% or eventually 5, 6% appreciation, they're going to be much happier, right? God help these people that bought a home in 2021 and paid $100,000 above asking price. And now they're trying to sell it. Uh, Conversations in that household probably aren't too healthy, right? So I remembered that when I looked at these statistics and it said, the prices have actually gone up, not by much, and our earnings have actually gone down. So um, keep that in mind. If anybody asks you this year, when is the best time to buy, you tell them right now, and it's because prices are stable, home values are stable, and that's when you want to buy. You want to buy low, sell high. All right. So that was it for today. Um, any questions, comments, input? No? All right. So next week we have our, wait a minute, that's not true. Um, Stand by. I'm a week ahead of myself. For some reason, Allegiance is not doing their CE until the 26th. So we have one more week next week. Actually, I'm going to do the CE next week. So I'll do a CE class next week, free. Um, and I can't remember the topic. It's in Back Agent if you want to look. Uh, but I'll do one next Thursday, and all get an hour of credit for that. And then that last week of June will be Allegiance Title CE, and you'll get credit for that too. All right. All right. Anything else? All right, awesome, guys. Thanks for joining me today, and we'll see you next Thursday. Have a good
Thank
rest
you.
of the
Great
week.
job, guys.
Thank you.